Each year we ask a speaker to be involved in our Veterans Day program. This year we asked one of our own, Mr. Dennis Bowman, to help us out. Dennis Bowman was born and raised in Detroit Lakes. After graduating from high school in 1976, he spent the next 10 years affiliated with the United States Navy, serving in a combination of active duty and Navy reserves. During this time, he earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics from the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis and began a computer career in the Twin Cities area. In 1995, Dennis established Midwest Mac Parts and Service in Minneapolis and sold the business in 2001. Dennis then completed his license to teach 7th through 12th grade mathematics through the teaching program at Concordia University in St. Paul and was hired by the Fergus Falls School District in 2002 to teach, and he's been teaching here ever since. Dennis is married with 2 children. His wife Jean is the director of the Visitors Bureau here in Fergus Falls. His daughter Sarah is a music teacher in the Park Rapids area, and son Thomas is a junior at Minnesota State University, Mankato. Dennis is an avid fisherman and has been a familiar face in the D Lagoon softball complex for a number of years, serving as a coach and umpire. A special thanks to Dennis Bowman for offering a message here on our Veterans Day program.
Hi, my name is Dennis Bowman, and people here in ISD 544 know me as a math teacher, and this is my 19th year with the school district. However, people around the country, hundreds, know me as a veteran of the U.S. Navy. And I just want to talk about my experience today and hopefully entice some of our younger citizens to consider the military as a career. I graduated from high school in 1976 from Detroit Lakes. And I was a baseball player, but most of all I was a scholar. And I had planned to go to college, but my family's financial situation, was not there for send me to college. So I had to look for other options. And back in World War II, after World War II, the GI Bill was established to help World War II veterans acclimate to civilian life. And part of the GI Bill was some help for college, which would basically, if a veteran wanted to go to college, they would cover tuition and it would cover books along with a stipend, so veterans could get a college education. And this was still in effect when I graduated high school. So I was thinking I think I'm gonna just go into the Navy out of high school and go to college afterwards. It was kind of a funny idea because I was the last person to consider the military. The Vietnam War had just ended in 1973, and the negative stigma was still very strong about the military. I had a class of 300, and I only know of one other classmate that enlisted into the military after high school. Another reason why I was considering military is for career aspirations. My dad was a math teacher, but that's the last thing I ever wanted to be. I wanted to be a computer programmer. And I felt that if I joined the military, I could get the schooling as well as the experience so I could get a job in the computer field when I got out. Well, along the stumbling blocks of this pattern, my advisor in high school suggested that I apply for a scholarship because the military gave out scholarships and I could possibly go to college for free in an ROTC program. So I didn't know either way, so I said, okay, what can they say? No? And well, they apparently liked my math and science skills and took me. And I found out that I could actually go to any college in the country that would accept me. And I decided that I really needed to stay in Minnesota because, of course, financial constraints. So I ended up going to University of Minnesota and joined the Navy ROTC program there. It was kind of a funny thing to do because, like I mentioned about Vietnam, I was pretty much shunned by anyone at college outside of the fellow ROTC candidates that I was in school with. And actually, that kind of stuck with me. And I remember when I got out of the military in the mid-'80s, I really didn't mention that I was ever in the military. During this time, I changed my major from computer science to mathematics because I found that I was just an average computer science student, but I was pretty good at math. And I figured, well, I'll get the math degree and get into computers later with that. Well, ROTC turned out to be kind of a different experience, besides being shunned by pretty much any other college student at the U. But there was some fun stuff. For example, in the summer, I got to go on what we called a cruise. After my freshman year, I went to Hawaii for 6 weeks, and I was stationed on board a ship out of Pearl Harbor. Junior year, I went to boot camp, which was actually very rigorous, and got a taste of pretty much every aspect of the Navy. Spent a week at Camp Pendleton with the Marines, spent a week in San Diego with the SEALs, and there's some other time spent, but made it through. And my third summer, between my junior and senior year, I went to Norfolk, where I was stationed aboard a submarine. And that's where the crazy experience was, because when I got on board that submarine, the first thing that caught my eye was a personal computer. I had never seen one before. This was summer in 1979, and that just wasn't something people had. And as it turned out, no one on the submarine knew how to use it. So I was challenged by the officers that was in charge of me to get on that computer and do something. And I wrote a program for the submarine so that they could identify Russian ships at night based on the location of the navigation lights. And I don't know if they ever used that program, but I think the Russians might still be looking for me, or at least that's what I tell my students. But in the end, ROTC just didn't work out for me. And even though I had signed a 6-year contract after my sophomore year, I was committed to 4 years in the military, so I decided to go see a recruiter in Minneapolis and see what my options were. And one of my options was I could go to computer school and work with computers as an enlisted man. And that sounded good, except I did have to sign up for 6 more years to get that. 3 years active duty and 3 years in the reserves. But that was okay, except I had to go to boot camp again. So much unlike most military veterans, I actually graduated from boot camp twice. And that was okay. Made it through. After boot camp, I went to computer school in San Diego. And this was in the summer of 1981. And that was a good place to be in the summer. My class was from 4 in the afternoon to midnight. And so I would just get up bright and early, 7-ish every morning, roll up a towel with my homework, and jog to Ocean Beach, which was about 3.5 miles away, and enjoy the great climate of San Diego, and just hang out at the beach. That was a great time. In fall of 1981, I finished up computer school and was assigned to a ship called the USS Niagara Falls. It was a supply ship that was home ported in Alameda, California. That was across the bay from San Francisco. I got acclimated to the Bay Area and became well known on the ship because when the sailors left the ship at 3:30, I was leaving the ship with golf clubs over my shoulder to get 14 holes in before it got dark. And I kind of kept up that practice the whole time I was on that ship. The following year, spring of 1982, was my first Westpac. That's what we called it in the Navy, where the ship would leave and would not come back for 7 months. And it was pretty exciting. I got to go to a lot of ports like Hawaii, Philippines, Australia. I was even in the Middle East. We were at Muscat, Oman, which is at the tip of Saudi Arabia, which happens to be pretty much the hottest place I've ever been in my life. I feel sorry for all those servicemen that ended up in Iraq and Afghanistan to put up with that kind of climate. During this time, I became an honorary shellback after completing the crossing the equator ceremony. And I've got some kind of paperwork on that somewhere along the way, but it's not something I have on the wall. In 1983, the ship was assigned a new home port, Guam. I didn't really care for Guam. There's not a lot to do there. I mean, it's just a big military base. But I did manage to buy a brand new Toyota pickup truck for $4,600, and I'm sure that truck would have cost twice as much in the States. The Navy sent it back for free, so it was waiting for me when I got out of the Navy the following year. But I eventually just sold it to my dad, and so I could buy a sports car. My second Westpac began in late 1983. I revisited Japan and the Philippines, but my active duty commitment came to an end before I could complete that Westpac. And I was flown back to California from the Philippines in February 1984 for processing out of active duty. Then came the next stage of my Navy life, where I was committed to be in the reserves for 3 years. And I was assigned to a Naval Intelligence Unit in Minneapolis. And my primary job was as a computer programmer using the Oracle database. Although I was urged to either re-enlist or attend OCS, no way, by the way, I chose to walk away when my commitment was over. So if we look back at that, and if you're just counting the amount of time I was in, the Navy really had my name and number for 10 years. And that was a long time for a lot of veterans. So what were the benefits? Well, my number one benefit was my golf handicap got shaved at least 10 strokes during this time. And to this day, I'm still okay if I go golfing. Could be better, but it's much more convenient to go fishing around here. Another nice benefit that I took advantage was the free dental when you're in the military. When I was in boot camp, a Navy dentist told me I had an open bite, and would I be interested in getting it corrected? Children typically will have braces to correct this, but my family didn't have enough money to get braces for me, so I had to kind of endure it, which would kind of explain why I had a speech impediment all the way through college. And there was surgery to fix this, and it required going to a naval hospital after I got out of boot camp. And I had to live at that hospital and work at that hospital for 6 weeks with my jaw wired shut. In the end, my teeth were straight and my speech impediment was gone, opening the door to be considered for jobs such as math teacher at Fergus Falls schools. All dental issues that added up during my college years were taken care of during my active service. So when I entered the private sector, I was able to enter the private sector with a clean bill of dental health. Right. Another benefit I took advantage of, and this was after I got out of the military, was part of the GI Bill was something called a VA loan, which still exists today. And in a VA loan, if you're a veteran, and you qualify for this, you can buy a house with no down payment. And if you've ever bought a house before, you know that banks typically want a 20% down payment, which can be tens of thousands of dollars depending on what house you're looking at. And that's typically a roadblock for most home buyers to try to get into their own house. So I was able to buy a duplex in Robbinsdale, which borders Minneapolis to the northwest. And I owned it for 13 years, living in half and renting out the other half. And after 13 years of ownership, get this, I was able to take advantage of a seller's market and sell that building for 3 times what I bought it for. So thank you, Navy. That was awesome. This benefit continues to be available to me. When my wife Jean retires, we're kind of looking into using it to get into our retirement home. Right, just to summarize my experiences in the Navy, in retrospect, I feel I accepted the ROTC scholarship for the wrong reasons. That program is best suited for someone who wants to make a career out of the military. And I saw it as a way to pay for college, which could have been accomplished just by enlisting out of high school. Instead, ROTC kind of made college a miserable experience for me. And I chose to tough it out instead of just dropping it when I could. My enlisted time, on the other hand, was an enriching experience, and I think it helped mold me into the person I am today. Although I'm not a recruiter, I hope that my comments may entice some of our Otter graduates to consider military service. From time to time, I remind my students that the world does not revolve around Fergus Falls. The Armed Forces is an opportunity to go out and experience the world. You won't regret it.